This is What the Flick. I'm mixing it up.
Right.
I'm Ben, Christy, Matt, Alonso. Everybody's
We're
here.
all
This is
here.
good. I like this.
Wait, I gotta go.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks for coming in, Matt.
Can
Christy?
we acknowledge that it's Halloween really fast?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Christy is not just poorly dressed.
Any more than usual.
Yeah. Who are you going as,
I'm
Christy?
sexy Kurt Schilling, complete with bloody socks.
Are you implying that regular Kurt Schilling is not sexy?
I think, maybe a long time ago when he pitched for the Diamondbacks,
Maybe.
there might have been some vague sexiness in that mullet of his.
Right,
long time ago.
But then he became kind of bloated Kurt Schilling.
Yes.
I'm going
I'm
as
bringing it back.
less sexy Paul Giamatti.
So Michael Douglas and Robert De Niro and Morgan Freeman and Kevin Kline play retired astronauts who have to come together one last time for an important space mission that only they can pull off. Take a look. That's what it is, though, right? Or it's like the Hangover. It's like geriatric Hangover.
Grumpy old hangover is what I called it in my review. This movie, the four of them are super charming and fun to watch, and they basically fireman's carry this movie to the extent that they can. But this is so, you have to wonder, are there really this few scripts out there that actors this good have to phone it in with this junk? This movie is junk.
But what you said there is wrong, and I think you contradicted yourself a little bit, because the script might not be great, but they definitely didn't phone it in. They elevated it.
They do what they can, but I think what they can only takes the movie so far. I mean, yeah, if you just want to see these guys exist and be in a movie together and interact, then yeah, fine. But I bought them as lifelong friends until they talked about being lifelong friends. And then all that stuff fell apart. All the stuff about, there's this long-standing rivalry between De Niro and Douglas where, De Niro's wife just died, and Michael Douglas didn't come to her funeral, and then Michael Douglas thinks that she would have married him, but he said no, and all that was just...
But that was get over it. 60 years later, get over it. I agree with you on that.
But that was so brief. Like we get through that.
It comes up a lot.
There's a lot of climax of the movie. Go ahead.
These guys are such idiots and so bad at what they do, and their big $1 million invention idea is so crappy. It's so like infomercial back of the 99-cent store.
It's a shower head that also shoots out shampoo and soap. Now, I've heard dumber fake inventions in movies, but that's like at the back of a Sky Mall catalog. That's not
dumb enough. That's not weird
exactly.
enough.
It's like either make it terrible and just assume that we're all going to play along, or come up with something that's actually really cool. But this is just so average and that the whole premise of like, oh my God, how terrible! They're going to lose out on the shampoo gun,
Yeah.
Well, and again, which would be forgivable if this were remotely fucking funny, but it's not.
Did you laugh at all? Is there anything?
There's a couple of
cute jokes here and there, but really the problem is I'm not trying to rewrite the screenplay, I'm just saying like there were ways to go that are in the movie itself that wouldn't have just been, oh man, they needed walkie-talkies for this heist, but they got kids walkie-talkies. Isn't that funny? No! No, it is not!
Here's a question I have for you. Why can't Jason Bateman make a good movie?
Oh, brother.
Let's talk about this year
Teen
alone.
Wolf 2, young lady.
That's a very good question. I mean, let's remember, before Arrested Development, he had one of the more stellar flop runs on TV.
He would do a pilot every season and it never left.
He was like the Robert Urich of comedy. Like he would do one show after another that would just get canceled or die on the vine. And he's very talented and very funny.
I always liked him.
And
Total pro.
I don't Words was okay.
His nostalgia is aimed at us. The Where's the Beef Lady and Hall & Oates and Max Headroom.
Well, and Adam Sandler's Midlife Crisis, also a treat for children.
He's too old for that at this point. He's like 50. Hasn't he had it already and gone through it?
Here's my problem with this movie is that it's not just that it's stupid. It's stupid. it's stupid for a movie that's about video game characters come to life. Like, this premise itself could lead somewhere interesting and fun. It already did on Futurama. And even on that level of I just want to see centipedes raining down on London, it's still unsatisfying.
It's pretty well shot and pretty exciting, the scene in London where they're shooting at the centipede. That's a well-staged, well-shot,
fun scene to watch, and then somebody starts talking. And the whole thing
Yeah,
falls
no,
apart.
the script is definitely.
Well, and that's what, the other problem too is that you've got, this is a problem. You've got real actors in here. You've got Peter Dinklage, and you've got Josh Gad, and you've got Michelle Monaghan. And
talking to Q-Berts.
Right, and they're giving it their all. They're trying to make this awful dialogue sound natural, and in some respects, they almost make it work. But it just serves to put in glaring laser focus how bad the script is and kind of how lazy it is and how lazy Sandler and Kevin James are, just falling back on the same shit that we've seen.
Right.
Yeah, there are characters who get who get mad at the people who are saving the world and are trying to undo them saving the world for no good reason. Oh my God, I can't even.
I got one. Can I go?
Please.
Okay. Rampant misogyny.
Well,
more
yeah.
so than usual for an Adam Sandler
The
movie.
women in this movie are literally trophies for the men at the end of the film.
Yes.
In the
It's
last
so
scene of
Amber,
the film,
Ashley Benson. Ashley
they're
Benson.
practically handed to them with ribbons around them.
Poor
It's
Jane
crazy.
Krakowski says 2 lines. Her whole role is clinging to Kevin James. She's the first lady, first of all. So she gets to run and hug him and make a cake with him.
Once again, to What the Flick, Ben Mankiewicz, Matt Atchity, Alonso Duralde, the lovely Christy Lemire. Not that you guys aren't lovely.
You are.
Friends with kids, Matt will be largely silent, although he is a friend
With a kid.
Don't call me largely. That's not cool. Don't make fat jokes.
He will be
You'll
proportionally
be lovely silence.
silent, even though he, as a kid, because he didn't
My
see
wife
it.
hates you.
Still hates you. It's not going away.
Who's describing this?
Me.
Alonso.
Okay.
He's a friend without kids.
Oh yeah, exactly. So I'm an expert here.
Big is a very conventional, safe way.
Yeah, it's super conformist, and which would be fine if it were funny, but this movie is not funny.
And it's a waste of very, very funny people.
It's like watching if somebody bought a comedy kit, because you've got funny situations and an interesting setup and a really good cast, and then there's no jokes, there's no laughs, there's nothing funny in this movie, and you've got four bridesmaids
Right,
along.
half the cast of Bridesmaids is in this.
and they have nothing to do, and I mean
And nobody shits in the sink.
and nobody
No,
shits in
but
the
there
sink.
is projectile baby poop. And I'm
That's
telling
true.
you, it does not come out that way. You would never get covered with Jackson Pollock paint splatters of poop. It would never ever happen.
Well,
and it's not funny.
Maybe you feed
No.
your kid right. I don't know.
No, it's
It's like I mean, like Maya Rudolph.
We're going to start with Identity Thief, which I liked better than you guys did, but I think I liked it because all 4 of us were together and it felt like a night out.
Right.
We're all sitting
Shared
next to each other.
suffering.
Yeah.
Right. Shared pain is lessened
It was
pain.
It was one of those movies where I noticed that I was laughing more and then I felt bad about that.
You should.
Jason Bateman plays a guy named Sandy, and the movie thinks it's hilarious that a guy's named Sandy.
The problem with the Sandy joke is exactly what you said, Alonso. It's not funny. It's not that feminine a name.
No.
As they say in the movie, he's like, well, Sandy Koufax. And you're like, yes, Sandy Koufax, Sandy Berger.
It's not like his name is Petunia. You
Right,
know?
exactly.
It's not like
Yeah.
his name is Mary.
Right, it's not Ellen. Right, exactly. It's a name that mostly is for women, but there are plenty of men with it.
Sure. That's so the tiny tip of the iceberg of the wrongness of this movie.
It is, but it's a sign that
Absolutely,
that's their go-to joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's their default. Here's what bugs me the most, I think, about this movie. Melissa McCarthy is a brilliant performer. I mean, I remember seeing her at Groundlings. I was a Gilmore Girls fan. I am totally team Melissa McCarthy. I think she's great. This movie constantly undercuts her, despite her Herculean efforts to make this thing work. If this character were being played by Will Ferrell or Vince Vaughn or Jim Carrey or Zach Galifianakis, they would get to play crazy, unhinged, always lying, always duplicitous, always thinking 3 steps ahead kind of thing. And she gets to do that, but then every 20 minutes or so, the movie has to make her cry about her sad life and her upbringing and and it's just like, no, let her be this larger than life, great, crazy criminal, which is the character she's trying to create.
I love Jason Bateman.
I like Jason Bateman too.
I do too.
I think he's kind of wasted in this movie. I think that everybody in this movie is wasted. we are all victims of an identity thief here. This movie is terrible. I could not wait for this movie to be over in a way that I can't remember in a long time. A lot of times, if we're watching a shitty movie, I'll sit through to the end. I at least have a morbid curiosity, like, where's this going?
You're the guy who likes the shitty movies.
I like a good shitty movie. This is a shitty movie.
And it's almost a full
terrible.
2 hours, right?
It's almost a full. It's an hour.
It felt like
and 40
4, but you know.
I could not wait for this to be over.
You were super
And
anxious.
I felt bad. I kept turning to Christy. I'm like, oh, holy shit, we're only in St. Louis?
This was a 2 hour.
At the end of the movie, I was like, oh God, our job sucks sometimes. We had to sit through this.
It's a slog.
It was a 2 hour movie. Christy did this the entire time. I mean, I look at her, I was like, come on, something, crack a smile. That was a little funny. And again, I felt this sort of, hey, look, we're all here. The St. Louis was a significant moment. Again, it's a drive. Welcome to What the Flick, everybody. I'm tired because I saw Noah last night.
You napped during Noah. I saw
No,
you.
you napped during Noah.
I
I did not. That's horseshit.
I dozed
It
a
was
little bit.
a very late screening.
8 o'clock,
It was
2.5 hours
And
later.
long.
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So Noah, Christy, I think people know the story, but what is the story?
God talks to Noah and said, there's gonna be a flood. First there's gonna be a
flooding,
fire, then it's gonna be a flood. What was your
He
joke?
says,
There will be flood.
There will be flood.
I wish I thought of that. Anyway, so
One of my big problems with any biblical story and with Hollywood's treatment of biblical stories is that, like, he doesn't talk to him, right? He sends a dream to him. He doesn't say anything.
Some light in the clouds.
It's his interpretation of the
Yes.
dream. I think it's safe to say that God did speak to him because some pretty magical things.
Were you looking for like the cutout God from the Monty
totally.
Python? Holy Grail? Stop all that groveling.
Yeah, I almost want to be like, Noah! Sorry, Noah! But, like, and then he has to interpret it. And of course, at the end, he interprets it wildly wrong.
Right. And that's, I think that's the best.
Well, wildly, inhumanly. He interprets it in a hideous, awful,
Which is not to say that
a
it's
crazy,
but it's
messy.
not wrong. A flood
Wait a
comes.
minute. Wait a minute. I just want to. Wait.
Sorry, yeah.
You're saying that people wildly misinterpret the Bible in awful ways?
Or what they think that God
Shocking.
is telling them? Yeah.
I am, and when smart Hollywood takes a hold of that, I want them to drill that point home, no matter how many people they
I think the
offend.
movie does drill that point.
Up now.
But there's a lot of there's more, I think, that comes out of a tradition than I think a lot of people are going to realize, because I think a lot of people are going to go into this only knowing the Genesis story, which is pretty short.
Yeah.
Just kind of a few paragraphs, like God told Noah, everybody's wicked, build an ark, get the animals.
So this is
here
like
are the directions.
This is like Gunga Din. It's a poem. And to turn it into a whole
It's
movie.
the Hobbit.
Yeah.
But it is also very much.
This movie feels like he had this crazy idea that he wanted to do one of his sort of obsessed characters, but make it Noah. And a studio saying, "Oh, we'll make that film. It's about a guy from the Bible. We'll sell that to the Bible people that want to come see this movie." And so it's this weird amalgam, shitty compromise of, kind of crazy, go nuts, visionary art film, and let's get that Son of God money in,
We
And
talked about that walking out of this afterward. It's like a Kirk Cameron movie with a better cast and a bigger budget.
Yeah.
It's very faith affirming.
But it's pardon the expression, it is neither fish nor fowl.
But it's
And
an
so-
uncomfortable story. Like, I don't,